Hello, my name is Joe Renato, and I'm going to demonstrate how to thread a 1909 Powers Model 6 Cameragraph motion picture machine. Well, the first thing to do is to take your take-up reel and place it on a reel hanger down here. This model does not have fire magazines because it wasn't required in the state that this projector was used in. This was an original itinerant machine that was trooped across the country. This is the upper reel hanger, and I'm placing the film spool on here and locking it into position. This is the lamp house that serves as the light source for the projector and as a magic lantern. I can slide this out of the way so I can thread the machine, but it also, while I am threading the machine, an assistant can run slides through here and entertain the crowd through a separate lens. Okay, first step, open up your gate, open up your intermittent clamp, open up your lower roller feed, and you get a scraper here. You always use a piece of copper, something that's softer than the gate. I've sharpened this penny, don't tell the U.S. government, to a very knife edge, sharp edge, and you make sure that you scrape all the material from the previous film off of your gate and your aperture. Okay, next step, take your film, fold the tape, push it down through the feed rollers. Some projectionists take the tape off and retape. I always just put the tape on backwards and start cranking the projector. It automatically lines the film. Now we're into the Academy leader. So the next step is you take this, it's called a framing block. And what you do is you put this on there and you lower your framing lever. So that centers the carriage to the dead center of the body of the projector. Now we take the crank and we turn it until the intermittent stops. So it's on its pause, its rest point. Take your fingers and make sure that it does not move at all, that it's absolutely tight. Now you turn on the threading lamp, which runs a light through the back of the aperture. You take your Academy and you center that by using the threading lamp, and you line up the holes on your intermittent sprocket so that the frame is on the film is an exact registration on the aperture plate. Now you clamp your intermittent lock down to keep it in position. There are 4 holes for every frame. So you have many ways of getting this thing off frame. What this does is it centers the film in the projector head, which gives you the ability, if the film somehow becomes out of frame due to bad splicing, it gives you the ability to shift the frame line up or down. Now when that's done, you pull tightly up on the film and you close the gate and it locks. Now you make the upper loop, and that's called a Latham loop. And what Mr. Power recommended was you do 2 fingers. That's your upper loop, and you got your 2 fingers. Make sure that the film is going down through all the guide rollers and that the film coming off the upper reel is tight. Now we go down to the bottom sprocket to set the lower loop. And what we do is we back this take up like this up a little bit, so give us some slack, because if you pull and do anything and hit the crank or do anything, you can knock the film out of registration. So you have to be very careful not to touch anything. Now the clamp roller for the bottom sprocket won't close, so you have to lift up on the carriage slightly, lock it, bring it back, put your framing block back into position, and check your loop to make sure that it's long enough and it looks like it's good. If it's too long, it's going to scratch the film on the frame. If it's too short, it will hit the sprocket restoring mechanism and it will disengage the take-up on your projector. The next thing you do is, with the framing light still on, you open the fire gate and then you look inside the aperture plate to make sure that your film has stayed in registration with the aperture. You start cranking and you should see the numbers or any images that you have going by well centered. Next step is you turn off the threading lamp, which has batteries in it, and you pull the framing block out. You slide the lamp house into position. You strike the arc, or in this case, you turn on the resistor with the fans. That's going to deliver power to the lamp house. You throw on the safety. You bring the voltage up to its prescribed voltage, which in this case would be 82 volts. Okay. light source is now up, full brilliance, and this dowser is what is going to let light through the aperture, through the projector head and the objective lens, and get the image to the screen. So when I throw this dowser, now we have light on the fire shutter. When I start to crank and you bring her up to speed and you throw the damper open, of course your fire shutter opens at 11 frames a second to prevent the film from burning. And there we have it. We have an image on the screen at 18 frames a second.